presentation by Healthy Leadership CIC, The Psychological Impact of Toxicity. Toxicity exists in organizations. It disrupts the individual, team, and organization, and often prevents true productivity and effectiveness. And there is sufficient evidence to confirm it and the effect it has. So why is it still an issue? Perhaps we don't like to think about its psychological impact. The targeted must often endure it, even when it breaks down their self-esteem and has a negative effect on their work and personal lives. People who observe it are also affected. It can make them wary of the targeted and the perpetrators. They may worry that they could be next. So they may comply with the bully just to have an easier life. Individuals or groups who use these behaviors can also be affected, even if they like the power that they have. Toxicity affects even prominent leaders, especially if they permit its existence. Perhaps because they are busy, or feel guilty, or are in denial, or don't know what to do to tackle these behaviors. Because the pain of toxicity can be great, we sometimes numb and anesthetize ourselves. The first step to addressing toxicity is to recognize and name its negative psychological impact. This means we must move away from being numb to looking at why there hasn't been progress and work out what to do to decrease toxicity. We then need to understand how we have contributed to the current situation. Are we bystanders about others' negativity? How guilty do we feel? If so, what can we do to stop watching and start acting? We need to acknowledge what is positive and negative in ourselves and how we have been silent. Then we must be courageous and considerate as we speak out against toxicity. And work out how best to do that in the organization so that there is change. Sometimes this means that you work to address the negativity quietly, and at other times you can be overt. Much will depend on how willing senior leadership is to address these issues. There is an obligation to help someone whose behavior is negative. Make sure that there is sufficient evidence as opposed to opinion. Then help the person appreciate their positives, and then support them to look at the impact and effect of their behaviors. This may take some time. Help them build and implement a plan for change, learning more about democratic leadership with kindness. If the person is still resistant, then it may be time to consider their departure. Most organizations have enough systems in place to alert leadership to negative behaviors and cultures. However, these are often ignored or not used to tackle negativity. Everyone knows, but nobody speaks publicly about these matters. Think about how leaders, managers, and colleagues can be encouraged to fully use HR systems such as appraisal and supervision. How can all levels of an organization, the executive and the non-executive, become engaged in promoting collective accountability, praising the positive and addressing the negative? We need to acknowledge that toxicity is damaging to all, that to keep it is to maintain the painfulness, and then become courageous enough to address it in individuals and organizations with a positive mindset. Can we change and address toxicity? Yes, if we want, and if we are brave.